Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us our 7th edition of our Projility Virtual Project Conference today. We're excited to have you join us for this session to help you and your teams learn from our clients and their pretty impressive solutions with Microsoft Project Management technology, sharing their lessons learned and answering your questions. We'll also be bringing you a detailed update as to what's new and changed with both Project and Planner over the last 12 months, and some exciting capabilities being available related to artificial intelligence. Let's get started. As an introduction, my name is Annie Levand, and I'm with a Microsoft Gold partner called Projility. We've been implementing Microsoft Project and portfolio management solutions for over 19 years for large enterprises, including everything from engineering, construction, IT, and new product development. PMOs and CIOs typically come to us when they can't easily explain what's going on across all their projects. They don't know what resources are working on what work, and they have a hard time getting consistent reports, metrics, and dashboards to make project-based decisions. We offer services and solutions in 3 core areas: deployment and consulting services, Projility's core business. We provide professional services for successfully planning and implementing Microsoft Project Portfolio Management, including Microsoft Project Online, Planner, integrating PPM with a line of business applications, and delivering strategic portfolio management solutions to support top-level management planning. Projility also offers a set of hammerhead pre-built software solutions and accelerators based upon 19 years of experience, including solutions that provide improved access to your cloud PPM data, accelerate access to visual reports and dashboards using Power BI, connect data between your PPM system with Microsoft Teams, and extend connectivity into Active Directory. New to our offerings is Hammerhead Power Pro, which is a pre-built solution crafted on the foundation of the Microsoft Power Platform and the new Microsoft Planner. This offering is designed to bring some of our lessons learned from this platform to your organization. Finally, Projility provides post-implementation support services, including expert care, designed to assist your PMO with gaining on-demand expertise on the solution supported. We have a full online automated e-learning offering that can improve consistency and adoption for your users of your project management tools. You can learn more about all of our services and solutions on our website, projility.com. For today's agenda, we're first going to go through some of the logistics for the session, including how to ask questions and availability of content. We'll then jump into our first session. We'll be hearing from one of Projility's clients, the State of Michigan Center for Educational Performance and Information. We'll walk through an innovative solution they've produced using both Microsoft Project and Azure DevOps to streamline and organize their project delivery processes. After that, we've got a deep dive session for you on the latest and greatest with Microsoft Project Planner and how Copilot is being woven into these solutions by Microsoft Project. We'll also cover the always fun topic of how these solutions are licensed. We'll close out the day by providing you with some useful links to content and provide you with a survey where you can win some great prizes. Now for some housekeeping. After each speaking session, we'll have a question and answer session. You will have a question. If you have a question, please type them into the questions and answer box at the top of your team screen, and we'll ask our presenters to answer your questions after each of their sessions and collectively. Today's session will be recorded so you can revisit the content and share with your colleagues. After the webinar, you'll receive a link to the recording of today's event in the follow-up email. It will also be posted on our YouTube channel. A copy of today's presentations will be made available for anyone requesting them. You can send an email to the link on the page for a copy. And then finally, at the end of today's session, we'll ask you to complete our survey to share your feedback to influence future sessions like these. To kick off the presentation section of today's conference, the project management lead from the State of Michigan's agency, CEPI, will be sharing some background on his organization and then jump right in and discuss the specific solution they implemented. As shared, if you have specific questions, please log them into the questions and answer dialog box at the top of your team screen, and we'll address those at the end of the presentation. With that, we're going to first hand the floor over to Derek Crombie from the State of Michigan, who's going to tell you a little bit about himself and his agency. Derek?
Great, thank you, Annie. Switch over. Presentation's up?
Yep, looks good.
Awesome, thank you. All right. So like I said, my name is Derek Crombie. I'm the Business Process Unit Manager for the Center of Educational Performance and Information in Michigan. We are a division of the State Budget Office in Michigan. And here's just a quick list of our missions and values of how we operate. But to succinctly put it, CEPI's primary role was the collection and reporting of data to comply with federal and state legislation, compliance reporting, uh, data collections that help figure out fundings for the schools, a variety of issues. And what we do is we coordinate the data collections, analyze it, store it in a longitudinal data warehouse, and then we can produce reports that go directly to our data portal or can go out directly to individual stakeholders. My background as the man, like I said, the business process unit manager, um, I focus heavily on coordination and project management within the office, making sure processes are in place for our various units to do their jobs and their functions, and then also to manage the overall portfolio of work for the organization. So as we talk about the solution we came up with, it's kind of important to understand the overall data cycles that CEPI goes through. And so there'll be a little bit of background here, but it'll help explain the overall story. When you see a data cycle here, this represents what it takes to collect and report a single year of data from a CEPI perspective. Defining the data, collecting it, the data quality there in the blue under it represents the checks we do during the collection process. ETL stands for extraction, transformation, and loading. That's taking the data from its format, from its collection purposes, and recompiling it for efficient reporting. Then the actual development of reports, and then transferring information out to the portal. So to execute, this would be done on one school year's worth of data. So if we were saying like for right now, we'd say the 24-25 school year, it actually takes 3 years to execute it because we'll spend a year defining it, a year collecting it, and another year reporting it. So what does that look like in a little more detail? If we were to look at it, if you look at the collections, that's what you're seeing off to the left. That blue box is trying to color code it to line up with the screen I just showed you. The green bars represent the various data collection applications that we operate and facilitate. The blue represents the data quality processes we run in the background. Then as we move from left to right, you can see the extraction, transformation, and loading to the longitudinal data system, the various reporting outputs or extracts that go to the data portal. So that's just a little more nuanced in the initial slide. And then the challenge comes, like I said, it takes 3 years to execute a single school year's worth of data. But because of that, we're always working in 3 years of data simultaneously. So we're always defining 1 year, collecting 1 year, and reporting on another year simultaneously. So it's a significant amount of work that has to be juggled between our various units. The other piece we work with as well is that our IT shop, the Department of Transportation Management and Budget within Michigan, they're partnered with us. They're not part of CEPI, but we have services from that organization assigned to us as IT resources. So we're managing actually resources and tasks from two different organizations simultaneously. So the way we've been managing prior to the solution we got in place is we were actually having independent project files for all these different processes within the office. So you had a file for each one of them, each functional area within the office within a data cycle. But then because we're in that 3 year structure, it gets stacked up. Lots of files, lots of multiple pieces. And what we were doing before we got an online solution is that these individual project files were all sitting on a common share, and they were cross-linked with hard file paths, interlinking key tasks within each file. And then we were wrapping it up with a master file. We were actually embedding all of these inside of an individual file, having a common resource pool file. So the amount of interconnected data was getting significant, but we needed it for the complexity of the work that we had. When you look at it, I'm just checking my notes here. It took in our previous setup about 7,600 total tasks in project to do 1 year. So if we were looking at it from a simultaneous standpoint, we were dealing with 20,000 plus tasks in a simultaneous window coming online and offline within a similar time frame. So the challenges got to be was extremely manual processes. And the teams weren't accessing it. We didn't have everyone having project on their desk. So we have a team of coordinators who would meet with teams and sitting down and going, did you get this done? Did you get that done? Updating files on a regular basis. And you can see some of the other problems we were having. The networked files were crashing as we got bigger and bigger and bigger. We couldn't keep it operating. Like I said, files could take 40 minutes to open. We couldn't even put a baseline on a project because it was just too much. It was too much data, replicating all those files. And aside from the update process being extremely manual, we were using that master file format to pull extracts so we could build reports on a weekly basis. But it took hours. We would run it like every Friday morning, and it would take hours to do it. And then it could be out of date quickly. So what we did is we partnered with Projility, and we set up Microsoft Project Online, and immediately had significant success. We went back, we imported 5 years of history. We got rid of those crash issues. Our files open dynamically now in seconds. Enterprise fields, which Project Online has by default, we were trying to emulate in our common share environment. And that was extremely challenging because one fat finger mistake in a particular column, you'd get it wrong and then things didn't line up. We can use enterprise fields now for consistency across the files. Everyone now has web access to view the project files through the web app, as opposed to just having only a handful of people with the desktop app. We had been using our project portfolio and new development work on top of our operations work. And that's a key line to draw here, is that what I've been talking about for the last few minutes is our operations work. The work that we're doing from year to year consistently, the collections, the reporting and such, on a regular basis that we knew we would be producing over and over again. We also have new development work. If a new app came along or significant additions came along, we would manage those in a portfolio to align with that work. And we were doing that all via SharePoint. Now we have that portfolio piece equally integrated in with our operations piece. And we've gotten rid of a lot of that Excel reporting by connecting all of this into Power BI. Both in a combination of using the Hammerhead suite provided by Projility and also custom reports that emulate some of the unique things we were doing previously that now we can do in an automated fashion. So we get to next steps, a very successful implementation of Project Online, but then it came with some unique challenges we wanted to go through. So we started talking about doing updates, and the challenge we got there is people could do the updates through Project Online on their tasks, but in reality, it was a fair amount of our office using DevOps to do their work. Our collections teams were more still in a manual Microsoft Project task-driven process, but our report, ETL, and portal teams were in a very deliverable-based format where they were doing work deliverables in DevOps. So the feedback from managers and staff was, well, I don't want to do the work in DevOps and then also have to report it in Project, which gets us to the dual entry point that's on the screen here. We also want to get the project coordination staff out of working in those updating files and then getting back into better metrics and better forecasting. Part of what I was saying earlier, how one part of CEPI was using DevOps and another was not. Trying to get everyone switched in a mindset to let's get to deliverable based ticket based items, so that the organization had a little more consistency in how we're looking at work. Some of the other things too, in the way we were using DevOps, instead of having the team got very used to using individual tickets that would be reassigned from one person to another. It made for ease of notifications, but it made it hard to track and get some of the ideal metrics we were looking for in order to do some of that forecasting and planning things that we wanted to do going forward. And then one of the challenges you'll see in the next slide is how our DevOps situation is set up. This provided an opportune moment to look at not only updating our DevOps environment, but also aligning it with Project Online, because the way we had been operating, if we go back to a data cycle, we just look at 1 year at a time, you can see that those gray boxes sitting on the peripheral were instances of DevOps. We had one working predominantly with our collection systems, one with the longitudinal data system for ETL and reporting, and one for the data portal. And the data portal and longitudinal system, those dotted line connections, we were able to use a simple export from project to kind of bulk create some tickets, but there was no, no sync between them. And the collection system was using, they would put more ad hoc tickets in for development, but no link to the actual operational work. The challenge this created here for our technical team from DTMB was if they wanted to see if they're developers or our database analysts in those areas wanted to see all of their work, the challenge would be we'd have to query each one of those DevOps environments individually and try to overlap views to try and get an idea of resource and capacity. So it made that extremely difficult. So like I said, we saw the opportune moment of how can we make project and DevOps work together to give common views? Because when you look at a DevOps ticket and a Microsoft project task setup, they're more alike than different. I actually used to talk about it when we were previously working with it in the office, and people would say, well, what about DevOps and what about project? And it was almost like I joked it was a separation of church and state sometimes between what we were tracking in each. But when you got to the core of it, and you can see with these highlights here, you can very easily see how a ticket name and a task name and assign to and a resource, start and finish dates clearly line up, but how these fields are more alike than different. DevOps being the focus of this is the system of doing, and project being this is the system of planning. But how do we make them play nice? How do we get them to help each other and get the full picture? So we started to put together requirements for what this unified approach would be. One would be moving to a single DevOps interface, and with a single interface, those three instances I showed you earlier in the kind of the map we did, there was a slightly different interface in DevOps and different fields between the different areas because they all got developed independently and at different times to manage different areas of work. To move to more of a unified bureau perspective and being able to make comparisons, we need to have everyone using the same fields and running out of the same instance, just to create the ability for better comparisons and interactions. We wanted to allow for the creation of tickets from Project Online to DevOps, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about that delineation between the system of planning and the system of action. So if we do good plans in project, we then can move that plan to DevOps for execution and then pull that information back. Part of maintaining that is the predecessor successor relationships. We use in that multi-file setup we use a whole multiple series of interconnected predecessors. There are times, for example, with an ETL section, we use something we like to call proxy. There might be one ETL that completes, and when it moves into the reporting section, there might be from a single ETL data load, there could be 30 reports that once that data are loaded, we're ready to go. So we use a proxy feeding over from the ETL file, we send it up to a proxy section in the reporting file, and then use that single predecessor that's linked back to the previous file to repeat 30 times throughout the file that these are related, these are now a successor of that proxy date pulled over. Notifications of when, and on the predecessors, we wanted to maintain that relationship and be able to make sure that not only when we set that up in project properly, that when it came over, when the tickets get created in DevOps, that entire predecessor successor relationship maintains intact, because that goes into the next piece about when the predecessors are cleared on assigned tickets in DevOps, teams are notified. When we were using what I called I used to call sometimes big fat ticket approach, when we're using one ticket that passed back and forth between individuals, we would assign it. It's not a best practice in DevOps, but it's how our team was using it. They would, Bob would do a task and he knew Susie had it next, and he would assign it to her and she would get notified that the ticket's now in her name. What we want to do now is, as if we're breaking it up more substantially, and you'll see that as we go, instead of having one ticket, we actually have a feature with multiple tasks under it, and the user stories are connected to one another in those predecessor chains that come over from project. When the notifications, when a predecessor is cleared, the next person gets notified. And then the teams then can track the work in DevOps using sprint cycles. Our DTMB team has been using sprint cycles for some time. CEPI in its business approach has not. But now that we're working in a common environment, we're using the same time boxing that our technical team was using now with the business team. We want to capture effort on our tickets. We want to capture, excuse me, I had a phone call. Sorry about that. We want to capture effort on the tickets as they get worked on with data we hadn't had before. Our DTMB teams work in Agile, and our business teams have not. So in order to do better work with some of the reports that we have in Project Online, we want to be able to have estimates on that we haven't had in the past. So we're actually going to capture some effort in the tickets, and then allow for the sync of data elements to go back and forth between DevOps and project. And that's really the beauty of it. So it gets out of those manual updates we were doing in the past, and the key data is going to come over as the teams work on pieces in DevOps. When they change statuses, that'll actually relate to percentage complete, and the actual finish dates will come back into project from DevOps. And then having some tools in DevOps to actually track work in progress. And it's a little more, like I said, of the system of execution versus the system of planning. So those are the requirements that evolved. And this is a little bit what the integration structure comes in at. So looking at what we came up with, and you can see Project Online over to the right and DevOps sitting all to the far left. What we have is enterprise data that moves between Project Online and the desktop client. You see that in the bottom. And what happens is the teams, as our coordinator teams who work with MS Project Desktop, they will make all the changes. The information syncs back to project, but that Windows server we have in the middle has the web services and the SQL components to pass that data over to DevOps and back and forth. So Project Online and DevOps can stay synced, and then we leverage SQL to order have the Power BI reporting run off of it. So a big part of what we do here with the ticket structure is how we were equating DevOps to begin to align with hierarchies in project. So in leveraging how DevOps functions, we used a grand epic. In our case, we're using it primarily for school years or significant new development. Epics are major areas of work then within a school year. The feature essentially is a deliverable within an epic, user stories then being the task, and then bugs, which are only being used, we're not using those back at project, but bugs can be generated off a user story for our validation components. So what that starts to look like in bridging the two, trying to see how things look. So if you look at DevOps over to the right, and we could say, we took an example here, let's say this was a report, and we're saying the grand epic is from the school year 24-25, and it's reporting, it's a feature, and then you can see the individual tasks there, the DevOps that we want to get. So how did we get those built in the DevOps? Well, we go back to the project file. We're already working inside of 24-25. So inside the light green boxes you're seeing represent individual files. So if we were looking at the reporting, that's the one that's expanded out. The 24-25 file in light green, at the file level, we link that grand epic to the school year. Then we define that this is a reporting epic from DevOps back to it. And then we can link the deliverables from the task hierarchy inside of project. And we'll get to that when you see the screens. Once we have that set, we can use the add-on to build the projects via the service and map that out. And then the map fields at the bottom represent additional fields beyond the core hierarchy that gets synced. So the way we look at it, we have a work planning process that we use with our teams now. This is lifted directly from the manual we put together for our team. We color coded it so when they go through their slides, it's pretty clear where they are in the process. So my BPU team, we work in Microsoft Project to get the schedules developed. We get the dates correct. We get the resources assigned, who's going to be doing what and when. And once we're comfortable with those schedules, further ahead of our sprints, we then go ahead and dynamically create the tickets. As we move into the ticket prep section, now what we've done, we've put the onus over to the actual teams working on it. So this is a little bit before the sprints, and we let the teams know the tickets are created. What they can do now is come into their DevOps tickets and do any prep that's required. If they need to add um, acceptance criteria, if they want to tag a coworker, if only one person's assigned to an individual ticket, but if they want to tag a coworker who might be involved, they can do those pieces to it. Once we get up to the sprint and the tickets are prepped and stated as ready to be worked on, we then can assign individual tickets and features into sprints, and then we can execute the sprint, and the teams then work on them back and forth. They follow the development process, and then we can retro at the end. And the nice thing about what we've learned with this too is how dynamic and quick we can be to adjust. um, if we suddenly see a process wasn't working right with what was sent over from project in the previous sprint, we can quickly adjust project for the next batch we're going to create and bring those changes into the next workflow. So this is where the magic actually happens. This is the project desktop add-in. It's just a screenshot from project. And if you look at how we do it, so the ribbon at the top is the custom piece that Projility helped us piece together. The far left, you can see you connect to DevOps. And that sets the connection up. But the main things we focus on, and I grayed out some of the staff pieces here. If you look at some of the columns on the page, the key things that we kind of focus on are the epic and feature columns, which are right to the right of the task name. That's setting up that hierarchy. And the way it works is the epics are predefined. We go ahead and build the epics ahead of time inside of DevOps. And then when the service connects, if you look up in the ribbon, you'll see a DevOps epics with a pull down. It says on this one, 2425 with the ETL. And what that'll, oh, here we go, we got the arrow. So we got the pull down here. So this links right back to DevOps and populates the epics. And then what we can do is when we want to create a feature at the roll-up level, so this would be the feature. This roll-up represents the deliverable we want to build. So what happens is we can come in and we can select the item. We can define it being from this epic, and then we create the feature. It'll go through, put a DevOps number on it, and then it makes it available then to be chosen from this DevOps feature pull down. What we do then is we can then select the rest of the tasks that are under it. And once we do that, we can hit this create mapping. It will then populate the epic and the feature field. And then that will set up the mapping then for the rest of the tickets to be created, because once everything is set, we've got other key required fields that have to be done. But once those are set, we can hit sync with DevOps, and it will send it over to DevOps, and those tickets will dynamically be created. In fact, initially when you come through, these are all blank. So, and when we run it in real time, as the system, as it goes through and it's syncing, it's pulling back data, syncing back things from DevOps that were already created. And when new items are ready to be created, it's automatically dropping in these DevOps ticket numbers. And we can control which ones are being looked at too. We actually added a sync status field to this, so we can actually control which items are being analyzed and which ones are not. And it also helps control which features are showing up in the menu, which is great. That was something we just learned as we went. It helps control the amount of work that's being filtered by the system. So that's what the mechanics look like from project. Now we get to what it looks like in DevOps. So here's just a sample user story. And you can see when things come over, and I had to split the screen up here a little bit. We couldn't fit it all on the one screen. So we've got our ticket number. We've got, this is the file name, the task name that came directly over from project. Initially, they come in a status of new. This was being prepped and getting ready for work. We have our area paths. So this knows what team bucket to place it in. We have it all mapped out. We put our team names in. We also map over an individual and the team name. So we know what bucket it's going into for on the DevOps side. Iterations we add later. This is when actually we assign it to the sprint. But some of the fields we talked about adding, that completed work. This is where we're going to ask people to complete items or complete information on the amount of time they're spending, so we can pull that back. Start and due dates. These are coming over what was listed initially in project. And this first year we expect to be a lot of, we'll see what some of what we've been seeing in schedules and some of what the reality is as people work on them in DevOps, and this will help us refine our schedules over time. We have Microsoft Project Assignee. Actually, this ticket goes to our DBA team, which functions out of a queue. So no one was specifically assigned to this ticket, but normally this field would be populated by who is assigned in project. And then we also have SMEs in these DBA scenarios. We need to have a contact that they can follow up with if there's someone who needs to talk to. We've got description, acceptance criteria, discussions. We can tag people for additional pieces here, but this gets the ball rolling on what someone would do and come in and prep. We classify by application, our content areas. Those are some of the additional business fields. But a big piece of what goes on is this related work section. And this is where we talked about earlier some of that successor piece and how important that is for us. So this actually shows the parent link has already been established automatically when it was created, so we can see what feature this individual task is a part of. We also can see the predecessor's ticket and the successor ticket and what their status is. And if you want to see a deliverable from a broader perspective, what you can actually do is click on the actual feature, and inside of the links section, you can actually see now, and this is one of our ETLs, and ETLs are probably our more complex pieces. ETLs have up to 25 to 30 tasks on them now in the way we've redesigned them. But we put a numerical sequence in here so they sort properly. But you can now see the entire flow of an ETL and where we are sitting in the process. As we move through, these states would be changing as we were going, and we can move right through the story. And then how do our teams navigate it? This is the brainchild of Brandon Johnson, who is one of the managers over with DTMP that we partner with. So he developed a series of dashboards here in DevOps that can be leveraged to see where teams are functioning on a regular basis. So if you're not familiar with DevOps and these dashboards, each one of these blue boxes is basically a query, and it's a visual widget that it works with it. If you click one of them, you'll actually go into a query view for DevOps, and you can see what items are inside of it. But by using our area paths, those team buckets I talked about earlier, you can see how work items are in states that are either not ready for pickup, progress, resolved, completed. So we can see how the pieces are moving through the queue at a given time. And these assign to the sprint. So when you look at the dashboard here, you can see this was functioning off of what the current sprint was. It actually ended yesterday. That was our first sprint through the cycle. And we can see where the teams were at times. So that ready for pickup goes back to that whole concept we talked about with the predecessor piece on there and the waiting for predecessors. So if predecessors have been cleared and the next person is ready to go, aside from getting notifications, they can click right in here too, and they can see where they are and pick items up directly. And one area this is going to help our organization, I think, tremendously is when you saw before, our old project files were team focused. We had one for data quality. We had one for collections. We had one for reporting. What's happening now as we're adjusting our schedules to fit this new reality is that it doesn't make a difference where the work comes from. If it came from a DQ file or it came from a reporting file, it's all becoming bureau work. Because when we go through and get more granular with how we're breaking things up, we're able to really assign it individually. And when these dashboard views allow people to see the buckets from their team perspective, they can say, oh, well, I got an item that's ready for me. It doesn't make a difference if it came from this schedule or that schedule. It's giving everyone because everyone was focusing more in their kind of individual silos initially. This is kind of breaking those silos open and letting everyone in the organization know, well, I've got work across the board and I can see where it is in relation to other people, because sometimes we had people in different status meetings. It's just provided a whole avenue for communication and transparency that's really opening things up. And like I said, we're just starting to use it, but even in 2 weeks, there were some aha moments which have been fantastic, and it's doing exactly what we're hoping to do. We were actually able to take a section of a section of a schedule where there used to be a handoff where it went from one schedule to a giant block in another. And we looked at it just 2 days ago and said, gosh, it just makes sense to delete this whole section in one area and let's put these subtasks in the other one, because now that the work's all combined and we don't have to have it in a separate schedule. We don't have to look in two different places for this information. This is consolidating and streamlining. And then for troubleshooting, this is a quick screenshot of a Power BI report that Projility put together for us. And this has been really great. If there's ever a time where we have an error with the syncing of applications, and whether it's it does have the capability to go to a nightly sync. We haven't turned that feature on yet. That would be more automated. Right now we're just trying to get it running manually and getting everything smoothed out. But this allows us to look at logs, and if we could see if there are failures, this will actually help us go right to specific. We can actually track to specific line items going through the different areas and say, this batch failed, it went back to this line. Did we do something wrong? Is it a technical issue? We had a bug that popped up in the testing of it, where we initially didn't account for a null row. In project there was a blank row. We didn't think about it, and we were using this tool, able to go back and go, oh, that's where the process failed. So we were able to go back in and make that individual adjustment. So that's been extremely useful too, to do the diagnostics behind the scenes when something didn't quite go right. So I know I just threw a lot at you there. Annie, I think I'll hand back to you.
Great presentation, Derek. We all know organizations are looking for better ways to organize their projects and align DevOps with agile development processes. What a super example of how you and your team have made this work done at CEPI. We'll now open the floor to questions and answers. Remember to enter your questions in the question and answer manager at the top of your team screen. Let's see if there's any questions in the queue. I don't see any right now, but if someone wants to pop one in real quick, we'll take that. Well, if there are no questions for Derek, oh, I think I saw one come in. Derek, do you use the delivery plan feature of DevOps with MPO?
That's probably more of a question. I think, is that more on the code deployment? Just to clarify.
While we're waiting for them to type, let's take another question.
Okay.
What was the biggest challenge you ran into during this rollout? Was it technical or adoption of the tools?
Technical wasn't too bad. Probably the biggest technical barriers we probably had was just installing some of the applications. Large enterprise organization, government has some controls on it, so there was a little bit of that, going back and forth and getting firewall rules and that, between organizations, getting that set up. But that once we probably had to wait on those for bureaucracy more than having to deal with the actual technical implementation. You get the red tape out of the way and we would get the technical piece figured out quickly. I would say the biggest challenge of this was probably internal with teams, and making people feel comfortable with change, specifically our teams that were already using DevOps, and getting them to realize the benefits, obviously, that this was going to serve not just for them, but also for the organization, trying to find those win-wins and getting people up to speed, but ultimately, I think part of the key was having a team that was already experienced with it, making them realize it wasn't going to be that bad. This is slightly different than how you were using it now, and trying to anticipate, some of those spots. So I frequently, myself and my team, putting us in the situation of, all right, let's take our developer project manager hats off and sit in the developer queue and think about how this, changes process for them. And what really helped us is our testing. We found some users in the office who were really enthusiastic about this, and they kind of became our champions, which was fantastic. Because once we involved them in a couple test runs, over the couple months it took to put it together, they could come back to their teams and say, "Oh yeah, this is gonna help. It's gonna help a ton." And also just constantly stating that, this isn't going to be perfection out of the gate, and this is organic, and this is going to evolve. And I think that's where everyone realizes it now. We can evolve. And there are some requests they've come in, it's like, can we change this? And some of them now are great. I mean, it's like, yep, we can execute that quickly. And even what's happened over the last month in our office is that our office has gone through a reorganization, and some people are like, oh my gosh, we've got this all set up a certain way. And once I showed them very quickly how we structured some of the hierarchy, I'm like, all we have to do is define it and we can switch over quickly. And people are like, wow. So it really helped. I mean, the time we spent with Projility, Scott Innes helped a ton in figuring out, that we spent a lot of time on that hierarchy and structure. Also with Brandon Johnson, again, from DTMB on our side, we spent a lot of time talking that through and getting it straight, so that now that it's flexible and dynamic, and we got a curveball thrown at us, and we were able to play it without a problem.
Thanks for sharing, Derek. Back to question number one. Our person got back to us and said, the delivery plan will lay out features in a schedule view similar to a Gantt chart. I was wondering if you found a way to tie that into Project Online. For example, you could lay out a feature delivery plan based on the start and target dates.
We haven't done that yet, but that is some of the features we want to get into in the future. Our focus, like I said, for the moment has been heavily on just getting the mechanics of sending the tickets over. But yes, we do want to get into that more advanced planning.
Well, if there are no more questions, I guess we'll move on. At Projility, we get a lot of questions of what's going on with Project and Planner and how does Copilot fit into all of this? People also want to know how the licensing they own can apply to these solutions. This next session will help you better understand all of this. Our presenter today is Rob Hirschman, partner here at Projility. Rob has worked over the past 20 years to assist with driving solid enterprise-level project and portfolio management solutions for clients across different industries, ranging from federal, state, local government agencies to manufacturing, engineering, construction, and healthcare organizations. He's a member of our team that works closely with Microsoft as they lay out the next-gen solutions, working to provide real-world client feedback in the process. Rob, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Annie, and thanks everyone for joining today. We're really going to get into a couple of key things and a lot of questions we get from a lot of our clients. What's going on with Project? What's going on with Planner? What are the differences between these products? Where are they headed? And what does the roadmap look like? But also with all the buzz that's come out recently around Microsoft Planner, really what's new and what are some of these investments meaning to me as an end user and maybe a customer that buys these solutions and deploys them? Really, so we'll spend some time up front going through that. Obviously, our good friend Microsoft Project is still here, as is Microsoft Project Online. We'll give you a little update into some of the key recent changes there. Also, Copilot. Everybody, all the buzz now is about artificial intelligence and large language models and Copilot. How does this relate to Project and Planner today? And what are some of the Microsoft investments they've been making to really use Microsoft project management tools as a good use case for Copilot and artificial intelligence? Everybody loves talking about licensing, and it's very, very confusing, but we'll try to demystify a little bit of that to you and explain what the different licenses of Project and Planner mean and how you can leverage maybe multiple licenses for multiple solutions, making a single investment. Well, let's talk first about what's going on with Planner, what's going on with Project, what's changed and what's new. So, the project management world, the tool world really hasn't changed for about 20 or 25 years. Microsoft took a look at the market in the mid-teens in 2016, 2017, and saw some new trends that were really out there that meant they really needed to take a turn in a different direction. One of the key trends was that, most people working on projects were spread out across multiple locations. Not everybody was in a single office anymore. Not only national, but global organizations, they needed ways to collaborate on projects and project activities in a centralized way, but have collaborative work management tools to allow people to use different approaches. And it talks to that second point that 74% of projects today are managed with different methodologies. It's not just a waterfall world or an agile world. There's hybrid, there's Scrum Fall, all kinds of different ways people manage projects. And a lot of the traditional project management tools are really based around a waterfall methodology. So they need more flexibility there. The third point is really about leaders. 92% of the CIOs that were interviewed said they didn't have the visibility into what was going on, and processes were often inefficient. So if you look at that and really management not being able to see what's going on, people are dispersed, people are using different methodologies. And then we saw the growth of a couple different new technologies. One was kind of this growth of the collaborative work management space. A lot of web-based tools that are out in the marketplace today popped up in the mid-teens, and people started just subscribing and using them. Swipe a credit card, start using a tool. Next thing you know, you've got organizations that have 5, 10, 15 different project and collaboration tools. So organizations and CIOs are starting to say, well, how can we maybe centralize some of this so I can get that visibility and insight, give people tools that are consistent, keep the data in my enterprise and make sure it's secure, but also start to leverage this investment in artificial intelligence. And that's a really, really big one. Project management is a world that really hasn't changed. It's a very manual, process-driven area. But if I can leverage AI agents and bots and technologies, I can start to streamline that process and become a lot more proactive. So, the investment that executives are making in AI technologies is really demand to leverage this on project management. So the big number on the right, the 25 million, that's a number that says there's going to be over 25 million new project management professionals are going to be needed globally by 2030 to fill over 100 million jobs in this space. And that came from PMI in a survey they did in mid-2021. So you can see the marketplace was changing, the roles were changing, the methodology was changing, some of the demands were changing, and Microsoft wanted to change along with that. So really the strategy they've taken around these technologies is really to try to look at two different angles of this. On the left, you have what we call collaborative work management, which is really kind of business management of collaboration and work and some lighter projects. This really talks to things like individual task management, having teams work together, visual Kanbans and goals, being able to look at what teams are working on, having dependencies and leveraging artificial intelligence. And then we have more complex needs around enterprise work and project management on the right. This is your more traditional project and portfolio management, where you're looking at things like Agile and Waterfall, looking at resource planning and resource management, maybe more strategic management of objectives and business goals and key results. You're looking at cost management and scheduling and portfolio management. So really, Microsoft took a look at the world and said, the space has changed. We can't really have one tool that does everything. So what they started to do is really develop a methodology and a strategy around the existing tools they had and how they were going to really morph those into the next generation. And so what Microsoft offers is really 3 services that are available in Microsoft 365 today that are really taking you from collaborative work management to full project portfolio management. And the reality is there's not a one size fits all. A lot of organizations we work with use all 3 of these tools in different places. The base tool, the Microsoft Planner, is the visual work management tool for business people that want to collaborate on tasks and activities. So Planner is really the engine behind tasks and work management in Microsoft 365 now. Planner Premium is a stepped up version of that kind of takes the best of Microsoft Project and the best of Planner and kind of smushes it together into a project management tool that's easy to use, easy to learn, very visual, but also scalable to meet the needs of an enterprise or a large group or department. And that's really a big investment area for Microsoft, kind of that business project management, lighter project management, as we move into more formal projects and programs. And then Microsoft still supports traditional project and portfolio management with a technology called Project Online, a Microsoft project, which is a full project portfolio management solution. So really, it's about where do you live, what part of your organization needs to use what technologies. There's not one size fits all. Again, you may use one, the other, or multiple tools here to meet your needs. And then with that strategy going forward, really having a bigger investment in where Planner is going, we want to talk a little bit about what's going on with Planner. The Microsoft Planner team has made some pretty significant changes over the last 18 to 24 months. So before last November, a year ago November, there were really 3 technologies Microsoft supported. They had a tool called To Do, which was task management, which lived in Office 365. It was mobile and it was in Outlook. There was Microsoft Planner, which was the work management tool and collaboration tool. And then there was a tool called Microsoft Project for the Web, which was launched in about 2018, which was a light touch web-based project management tool really aligned with business project management. And what happened was about 24 months ago, and then it was actually launched a year ago, November, they merged these 3 technologies into one tool, the new Planner. Planner is really designed with 4 tenets. The first of those, very simple, so it's easy to manage all of your work in one place. It's very flexible, that allows people to work the way they want to work, manage the information they need to manage. It's scalable, so you can power up to bigger plans or projects or programs if you need to. Start small and grow big. And finally, it includes intelligence, the ability to really drive outcomes more efficiently with artificial intelligence. And so what Microsoft has done is they really have 2 flavors of Planner today. They have the core version of Planner, which was in the bottom left, which is the basic web-based version, which you get through Office 365 or mobile or Microsoft Teams, by the way. And that is the quote unquote free version of Planner. Then there's a Planner version in the middle which has premium functionality. And really the differentiator there, if you look at the left and look at the right, collaborative work management is core. That's the basic version of Planner. Project management is the premium. That's where I have organized, structured work. I have project schedules. I have milestones. I have dependencies. I want to track resources. I want to track things like goals. Maybe I want to track other information such as issues and risks and changes in status, traditional project management stuff, but also maybe manage Agile projects there as well and put things into Kanban boards or do Scrum or put things into Sprint and do some sprint planning. I can do that there as well. The audiences may be mixed. You may have people in the collaborative work management space that may also be team members on formal projects, and that's completely normal to have. So think of collaborative work management as the basic or core version of Planner. Project management is the premium version. Okay? And all of this comes through one Planner hub. So when you go into Office 365, the Planner version has changed to the purple version from the green version. That's how you know you have the new one. And in most commercial tenants, it was updated a year ago, November. The GCC or the government tenants changed in about February or March, so it's about a year out there. So in Planner today, whether you're in Teams or Office 365, you will see a list of all of the plans you have. That will list your core Planner plans, your premium Planner plans, and any projects you have in the project online service will all be listed there as well, where you've been assigned as a team member, you own those projects. So the Planner has really become the central hub for accessing projects. If I go to the top left, there's an area called My Tasks. And one of the big lifts Microsoft made was really doing centralized task management, taking that to-do engine and planner engine, combining them, and allowing you to see all of your tasks across all of your planner plans in one place. So for an end user, they can go there and that becomes their central work and task management engine. And that is built into Planner today. Additionally, they released an area called My Portfolios. And this function is really designed to help you aggregate premium projects into different portfolio views right in the Planner app. We'll talk about that. That used to be something called the roadmap in Project for the Web. Now it's been incorporated here into the Planner Hub. So you can get to all of this through the Planner Hub in one place. So when you go into Planner today, that'll tell you a little bit about the different access points here. The core version of Planner, which you see on your screen here, is what it was before. You have a plan, which is the product launch. We have 3 or 4 different views. We have a grid, we have a board view, we have a schedule, and we have charts. We also have a calendar that's here as well. And then we can drag and drop activities across these different ones, assign them to people, and be notified of those activities and keep people in the loop. And that also works with the Planner mobile app or in Microsoft Teams. And Planner has really become the work or the task management engine behind this entire platform. And that continues to be a very big investment by Microsoft. So the core version of Planner is being enhanced and continuously enhanced with lots of changes. The premium version looks very similar, except that when we go to the top, we have new functions. We not only have a grid for entering all of our tasks and activities, but you see in that grid, we have a hierarchy or a WBS, or work breakdown structure. So we can have nested activities. You can have a master schedule that has summary tasks and subtasks. You can assign team members to tasks and activities. You can progress the percent complete. You can align effort to tasks, activities, and people. You can assign a duration to activities, have a start and finish date, and also create different kinds of dependencies. So I know tasks can't start until other ones finish. So it has a real project scheduling engine, but in a visual, intuitive way. It has a board view, and the board view is going to display a Kanban board where your project manager can go and build their own buckets, drag and drop activities into different buckets, and status them all in one place. It also supports sprint planning, so you can define different sprints and drag and drop tasks into different sprints, and then update those accordingly. So you have the Kanban board. You also have the timeline, which is a traditional Gantt chart. Very easy, very visual, very intuitive. For business users or project managers can go in and build their work plans without having some of the overhead of traditional Microsoft projects. And finally, if you wanted to get into more detailed resource planning, there's something called the assignments view. The The assignments is where I'm assigning different individuals. You can see the names of those individuals here, Alex and Ali and Ann and Aziz. I've got the tasks that are assigned below that, and I can start to lay out how many hours I'm assigning them during the life of this particular project. And the Planner Premium allows us to go project by project and build and assign these. And then I can start to aggregate that through some reporting and through the Power App on the back end to start looking at groups of projects, groups of resources, groups of activities, and do more cross-project or portfolio management. Finally, how does Copilot fit into this? We're going to talk a lot more about this in a little bit, but Copilot, is the preview version, is now built into the Planner Premium application. So I can pull up Copilot on my right. I can ask a question like I did right here, and I can say, what's the status of this project? And Copilot, through its large language model running off of the Planner Premium data, will actually summarize this in normal English that you can then share with a stakeholder. The project is 32% complete. There's 2,000 hours of work. It started on this date. It's divided into different sections, so it understands the hierarchy. And Microsoft has been building these prompts into this to act and understand in a way where it can really help your project managers become a lot more efficient and really improve on what they do on a day-to-day basis. So the premium version includes all this, and Copilot can be a component of that if that's the direction you're going. So how do I know? I go into Planner. How do I know what version I have? Well, when I go into Planner and I click on New Plan on the top right, when I go to Create New, I'm going to have either 2 or 3 options here. The basic version on the left, that's the core version of Planner, the free version with the grid, the board, and the timeline. The premium version, the one in the middle, that's the one where you need to have a license for, and that's going to engage all of the project management functions we showed you on the previous slide. The one on the far right is actually in preview right now, and this is actually Copilot, the Plan with Project Manager. So Microsoft has built some AI agents behind Copilot and Planner, connecting them together so it can help you do all of your planning and execution through an AI engine or a bot. So you have the ability to have a premium plan and a premium plan even with Copilot embedded, where Copilot's helping you. And below that, you'll see project manager templates. So if you're actually in a premium version, you will see these templates right here on this screen. On top of Planner, Microsoft has enabled access to something called the Planner Power App. Behind the scenes, what's going on here is all the data in your Planner Premium plans is stored in a database called the Dataverse, which is an Office 365 database. On top of that, Microsoft has enabled the Planner Power App. And this is going to give you the ability to access and update information across your projects. So instead of looking at each project in the Planner app, I can go into the Power App here, and I can see right on my homepage a list of all the projects that I'm responsible for right now. I can also set up metadata about those projects, such as a project ID, a status, a life cycle, which we'll talk about, the department, the program it's a part of. And then I have an app on the left that's going to allow me to organize this information, track it, enable access to it for stakeholders, and report on it. So it's a way Microsoft provides us with the ability to really enable more enterprise grouping and portfolio management of this data. When I open a project, then I can do lots of things with that project. I have the schedule, which is the task list, but I can also apply a workflow to the project to have a standard set of stage gates to move projects through a workflow approval. That's built with Microsoft Power Platform's Power Automate. I can capture data below that in the form using a Power App that is part of Planner as well. And finally, I can start to report out of this with different dashboards and reports using Power BI. So if I'm starting to think about, well, I like the way people are using Planner, but I want a little more consistency. I want to enable some templates. I want to enable some reporting. I want to put some process behind it, track things like issues and risks and changes in status. The Power App is there. And the good thing is it's bundled together from a licensing perspective. So all you need to do is plan it and deploy it and align it with your business processes and the reporting needs you have. So the Power App gives you a whole lot of flexibility to expand the solution out to a whole different level. Finally, we talked about portfolios, and this is where we go to the My Portfolios area on the left in the Planner app. When I pull that up, I'm going to be able to build a portfolio. What I'm going to be able to do is add a plan. You'll see there's a button that says Add Plan on the left. Then I can add the plans, the premium plans I have, to my portfolio. So in this case, I have 7 projects, the Cloud Odyssey, the Frontline one. I can see who the owner is. The out-of-the-box view shows me the progress, so it's going to summarize % complete on the plan. It's going to show me the start and finish dates. It's going to allow me to status this on track, at risk, or not started. So I can view a portfolio view, and then at the top, there is a roadmap button. You'll see there's plans and roadmaps. The roadmap, I can build a visual roadmap, inserting each of those projects in the roadmap, and then going and selecting tasks or activities in each plan that are important to this roadmap, And then I can share this roadmap with stakeholders. They just need an Office 365 license to view it. So Microsoft has enabled right through the Planner app the ability to get visibility into these schedules. And as the dates on these tasks move, the dates on the timeline will move as well. So it's a direct connection into the underlying projects or plans that are in Planner Premium. It's a nice feature, and it comes with Planner Premium today. Okay. This, just so you're aware, replaces the roadmap feature that was part of something called Project Home. And this has been rolling out. It's actually actively out there. It's going to fully replace the the roadmaps feature in August of this year. Okay. So really, from a comparison perspective, you have the two flavors of Planner. At the top of this table, you'll see the core version. That is where you can go in, comes with your Office 365 license, My Tasks, My Day, Office 365 Groups, Teams integration, a grid, a board, a timeline, and tracking charts. When we move into the premium functionality, that's really where you need a Plan 1 or a Plan 3 license. And that's where you're going to be doing more formal project management with timelines, sprints, people, goals, and activities. And really the only difference between a Plan 1 and a Plan 3 license, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is advanced scheduling. If you wanted project managers to do dependencies and lead lag and baselines, that's really where you need an advanced Plan 3 license. Otherwise, a Plan 1 license is fine. But we're going to get into licensing in a little bit. And then finally, from a customization or integration perspective, that's where the Power App is enabled. And you get that with either a Plan 1 or a Plan 3. So again, we'll get into this in a little more detail, but professional projects, for people who are building real formal projects, the Plan 3 license is the better license. It supports dependencies, lead and lag, baselines, project variances, more detailed resource planning, what's called a task history. And if you're doing any Copilot use or integration, that's where it's going to require a Plan 3 license. So if you're thinking about doing either 1 or the 3, we'll talk in more detail in a little bit. The Plan 3 is kind of the professional project manager license with more features. Speaking of projects, what's going on with Microsoft Project and Microsoft Project Online? A lot of people have said, well, is Planner replacing Project? What's the story? Project has a really rich history. Most people aren't aware, but Project was one of the first DOS-based applications that Microsoft actually came up with. They acquired so they could show visuals on a DOS page. This was in 1984, and this is actually a screenshot of the first version of Project. And you can see the little tasks and the ID numbers and the Gantt chart. I mean, Project goes back a long way. And now it's a full-fledged enterprise project scheduling engine with a portfolio management component on top of it and detailed reporting and dashboard as well. So it's come a long way from 1984. What does this mean? Well, Microsoft is going to continue investing in a couple of core components of this. Number one, the scheduling engine is going absolutely nowhere. Microsoft knows people love Microsoft Project on the desktop. It is what a lot of organizations rely on for critical path scheduling, resource management, resource costing, baselining, connectivity into SharePoint and Project, all that stuff. That's really important. And Microsoft knows that because folks are relying on it, they're continue supporting and enhancing Microsoft Project because it is the world's most popular scheduling tool. And if we look at that project platform, you do have the project desktop scheduling tools we mentioned, and then you've got the PPM service. That's where you do your enterprise scheduling. You're going to do your resource capacity management. You're going to do any true portfolio optimization and selection. You may want to collaborate and do issue and risk management. It has a time tracking mechanism with a lot of folks using timesheets. It allows you to track costs and do governance and workflows. There's some changes there we'll talk about. And finally, just overall PPM governance. So this is the Microsoft Project platform that is being supported today. A lot of folks ask, is Planner a replacement for Project? Well, not really. The way the Microsoft team is designing Planner is based on user feedback. They're not going and saying, let's just take what's in Project and PPM and replace it. They're saying, what are people actually using in these tools that they need and enabling functionality, and then leaving the platform open for add-ons, configuration, the ability for you to really customize on your own. And that's a very different approach from Project and Project Online, which has hundreds of features and people end up using 20 or 30% of them. And there have been some recent changes to Project. One of those, if you're using Project Online or Project Server, SharePoint Designer, which is the workflow engine in Project Online, Microsoft has announced that that is actually going to be sunset. Let me build this out for you. Sunset in April 2026. So that's 1 year away. So if you have governance workflows that are in Project Online today, those can be replaced with Microsoft Power Automate and using Microsoft Teams as well for notifications and approvals. So there is the ability to use the more modern Microsoft SharePoint components and the Power Automate components with Project Online if you're already using SharePoint Designer. Also, Project Online, the subscription edition, which is called Project Server SE, which is the on-premise version, includes a different workflow engine, the Windows Workflow Foundation, which will continue to be supported. So you have lots of options there. Project Server, there's a 2019 version. Support for that ends in July 2026. There is a version called Project Server Subscription Edition, or you can move to Project Online. You can also consider saying, hey, this Planner Premium and this Power App, will that meet my needs? Am I really only using that 10 or 20% of Project Server, where the Power App may meet my needs, and maybe the scheduling engine is good enough for what I'm looking for? So a lot of our clients are reevaluating that and saying, do I really need to be on a server and online when I can look at the new platform? So it's something we can definitely help with. Some additional changes, project roadmaps and project for the web. This was just announced last week. Planner Premium is replacing project for the web and the roadmap feature. This was announced last Friday. The transition is happening August 2025. So any of the project for the web projects you have in Office 365 automatically are transitioned over into roadmaps. That's happening right now, and you will see them actually in both places. So any plans or schedules you have in project for the web today are now available in Planner. The roadmaps, though, are going to go away in Project for the Web. You're going to need to rebuild those in the Planner Premium and in that portfolios function. Additionally, right now, you can take a project schedule you have, an MPP file, import it directly into the Project for the Web tool. That is not going to be available in the current iteration of Planner Premium, but good news, you can do it in that Power App we showed you. You can actually go in and import it there, and then that schedule will now live in the Planner Premium service. So there is a way to do that through that Planner Power App. And finally, for those organizations that are in the government community cloud, the updates at the top are all aligned with the current timelines. If you are currently in the GCC High, which is a lot of Department of Defense contractors and DoD agencies, those environments, the tools will be available in the August or September timeframe of 2025. Project for the Web was just made available, as were the roadmaps. So these changes are going to be happening in about the same times, but the updates are going to be coming in the next couple of months. So stay tuned. But with artificial intelligence and Copilot going on, what does all this mean to project management? What is the automation opportunity we're starting to see, and how are people starting to use this from a use case perspective? So if we look at it, if you're not aware of it, Copilot for Microsoft Office 365 really is an AI assistant really meant to meet people where they are from a work perspective. It really has 4 core components. The usability on the left to do Copilot chat. So you can go out and have a chat and ask Copilot questions, and it will come back with responses to those based on information on the web. You also have Copilot chat with what we call work grounding. So that's where Copilot can be ring-fenced just to your organization and your data. And that way you have central governance around it. So it's not going out and looking at all the data. It's actually looking at all the data that's in your M365 environment at your organization. There's Microsoft 365 applications and integrating Copilot into that. And finally, we're talking about Copilot Studio. This is the engine you're going to be using to design and build different Copilots and different AI agents. The key here is it is all in Office 365. It's based on your organization's standard governance, so it doesn't run wild. There's no free love with Copilot. And once you put the Copilot Foundation in place with privacy and compliance, you can start to leverage this across your different Microsoft 365 apps, including Planner. And the Planner opportunity is really an interesting one. We're starting to see, we have an AI council right now, getting a lot of feedback from folks in different industries is what would they like to see from an AI agent? What would AI do to help their organizations going forward? And we're starting to see there's really 2 or 3 different key scenarios where AI can help with project management. The first one is planning scenarios. This is where you're upfront, you're thinking about the project, you're starting to work through the work plan. How are you going to be doing the project? Things like goal setting. Or if you look at the screen here, maybe I want to define work and align that to different goals. And going into Copilot and saying, well, I really need to know, I need standard marketing tasks in this plan. Can you pull them from previous plans we have? Right? Or can you help me align these to business goals we have? Or can you align these into sections called design and testing and contracting? So Copilot can be ordered to do different things, and it will go out and do this, pulling data, structuring your project schedule, starting to give you guidance on that, starting to organize it in the right ways, even building out buckets for you. Additionally, it can help you find things. So really taking a look and saying, well, show me all the tasks that are late that are assigned to Sunny right now. And it'll go through the data so you don't have to spend an hour looking through your plan to get that kind of information. So what they call the hero scenario, which is kind of a top level scenario, how can I go about generating a plan with goals, tasks, and buckets in an automated way? So I can tell Copilot, I'm starting a marketing project. I want it to be 4 phases, and I need the typical marketing activities we've used before, and have Copilot go out and launch that and build that for you. So you think about Copilot being useful in the upfront planning scenarios and helping you really set goals and structure your plan in a useful way based on other plans you've worked on. There are then project management scenarios, and this is the blocking and tackling when you're delivering the project. That's everything from going in and updating. Update all of Sunny's tasks by 50%. Expanding the scope. Task 18 needs to go for 2 additional weeks. Please make the change. Identifying risks. Are there any activities here that are going to be impacted by a change on task 4? And then, as you can see in Copilot on the right, it'll tell you what tasks are impacted by that. And then you can tell Copilot what you want to do about that. So you can triage that, or even triage to nowhere. Create a new task that actually adds an additional 2 weeks so we have a buffer. It can help you check on progress like we showed you before and say, what's the status of the first phase of this task, of this project? What's the status of the project as a whole, or when are we expected to finish it? And finally, it can help you with rebalancing. Show me all the tasks that Sunny's working on where he's late, and maybe help me replace Sunny with another resource that might have availability. So Microsoft is really working through the project management scenarios that are out there right now and coming up with components in Copilot for Planner Premium that can help with this. And really the final scenario they're looking at right now is execution scenarios, when you're actually driving towards the end state of a project. This is where you're doing things like deciding on what you're going to work next. What are the next 5 or 10 or 15 tasks? Identifying the stacks. What needs to be done to complete task 15? And it'll pull up that checklist for you. Show me the people that are available that have a certain background that have worked on these tasks before on other projects. Update progress on a specific task, or find me some context. Give me some information, or show me all the documents related to this that we've worked on other projects. So during the execution of the project, these are some scenarios, and Microsoft is building out on top of the large language model in Copilot some different questions that are typical here. So you can query it with act, decide, and do. So you have some really outstanding opportunities to really improve your business, make project managers not only more efficient and effective, but really help them do their jobs. And this is one of the top opportunities we've seen around automation, around project management, really over the last 20 years or so. So how does all this licensed? Well, Copilot in the new planner requires a Plan 3 or a Plan 5 license. It also requires access to the underlying Copilot service, meaning your organization has had to say, yes, we want to deploy Copilot, and we're going to put this in our organization, and we're going to start to ground that in governance and controls. Then Copilot will be available for scenarios in Planner. The Copilot agents are now available in both the Planner Premium web app, as well as in the Power app that's there as well. So you can access them through the web app, through Teams, or through the Power app. And the Power app's going to allow you to start building Copilot components that look across all your projects versus looking at 1 or 2 at a time. Very importantly, as I mentioned before, you have to have the infrastructure for Copilot in place. It doesn't light up on its own. You really need to work with your central governance and IT group to ensure Copilot is there and it's grounded in work, in web, or both. Set the rules up for that, and then you can go and you can enable it it'll start to show up if you have the right licensing. It does not act as a standalone service. So that's a little bit about Copilot, some really exciting stuff coming with Copilot. The real question is, how do I buy this stuff? How is this licensed? If you go to the Microsoft website, it's ultimately confusing. There's project licenses and planner licenses, and you see a list of all the functions and what covers what. Let's try to demystify that for you right now. So with licensing project and planner, there's really 3 core licenses. There is the Planner Plan 1 license. This used to be called the Project Plan 1 license. It was renamed about a year ago. It really provides access to 2 things. Plan 1 provides access to the Planner Premium service with basic project manager functionality. That gives you the ability to build a project, create tasks, assign resources, and go in and update the Power app. That's Plan 1. If you're using Plan 1 in Project Online, the PPM service, this becomes the team member license. This would be for folks that are team members on projects that want to update their tasks, submit changes for approval, collaborate on documents, issues, risks, and deliverables. So the Plan 1 serves a dual purpose. And that's really nice because if you're running both services, you may be a team member on a Project Online project, on a larger complex IT initiative, but you may want to also plan and manage your own work in Planner Premium. You can do both with the same license. You don't need multiple licenses to do that. That Plan 1 license will give you access to both services. So it's kind of a nice crossover. The Plan 3 license in both scenarios, Project and Planner, is the primary project manager license. In Planner Premium, it adds the Plan 1 functionality plus advanced scheduling capabilities. So if you wanted to go in and build a schedule that has a baseline, you had dependency types like finish to finish or finish to start, You wanted to see a detailed history or an audit of all of your tasks. You want to do detailed assignments, views, and things like that. That all happens with the Plan 3 license. So it's kind of a paywalled version of the Plan 1 with additional functionality. Additionally, it does give you access to Copilot and Planner, that preview, both in the desktop, Teams, and in the Power App. So it adds a lot of additional stuff that might be worth it for that additional cost. In Project Online, it continues to be the Project Manager license. So a lot of folks get the Plan 3 license so they can have the Microsoft Project Desktop client and they use it standalone. It also allows for connectivity into the service of Project Online and Project Server, which is full project and portfolio management functionality. So think of it really, again, that's a crossover license between both services. Buy the license once, apply it to a user, they can have access to both services. Additionally, a Plan 3 license allows users to create portfolios in that Planner app. So if you wanted to go and create a portfolio, add your projects from Planner in there and share that with people, you can do that with a Plan 3 license. The consumers of the portfolio views only need an Office 365 license. So Plan 1 and Plan 3, those are the two primary licenses. The third license is a Planner, Project and Planner Plan 5. This is designed for Project Online for people that have higher level portfolio functionality. Say you're a PMO administrator and you're running the project management office and you want to have access to do all the setup and functionality and governance in Project Online. Or if you're playing a portfolio manager role in that tool, or maybe you're doing resource capacity and demand management in Project Online, the Plan 5 license is the right license. So again, it's the higher level project management functionality, resource, portfolio optimization, selection, timesheet approvals, things like that. In Planner Premium, it's not really going to add any value. The Plan 3 is the top level license right now. But right now, it gives you access, Plan 5, to something called Bookings, which is a legacy feature from Dynamics, which really isn't connected into the Planner app right now. Over time, Plan 5 may emerge as a higher level SKU or license. It's going to give you additional functionality. Right now, if you're using Planner Premium, Plan 3 will be fine. Additionally, a lot of people say, hey, I own this Office 365 E3 or G3 or G5 license. Can I get access to some of the stuff with that? The answer is absolutely. So within the Planner core service, the free version of Planner, you can go in and build and manage as many plans as you want. Tasks and lists and collaborate and all that stuff happens. In Planner Premium, you have access to view plans that you're assigned to. So a project manager with a 1 or a 3 would need to actually assign you to the plans, but then you can view the plan and then you can get notified of your tasks when you get assigned to those tasks. And then you can actually go in and you can update your progress on those tasks all in one place. So it gives those team members access without having a planner license. They can view the plan. They can go in and update their percent complete on their tasks. They can also go in and add project requests. So if you're using that Power App we mentioned, you can add a project request as a team member without having a formal planner license. So some nice functionality Microsoft added that makes this accessible. And finally, you can view the portfolios. If you went into portfolios, someone had created one for you with a Plan 3, and they assigned you as a team member, you can go in and view the portfolios and track that. So there's lots of capabilities with the 1, the 3, and the 5. Remember the functions there. They cross over both solutions. What's really important is actually choosing the solution or the solutions that are best fit for your group, organization, or department. We have a lot of clients that are selecting both. They have a business group that starts to use Planner Premium and the Power App for their business projects or their lighter IT projects. And maybe for their enterprise projects or programs, they use Project Online. And they bring the data together through Power BI. So you have some great opportunities here for consolidation. So key takeaways, the big one there, you have a choice. You can do basic collaboration and work management. You can do simple project management or full project portfolio management with Microsoft. You don't have to look to third-party solutions for this. And that's really by design. Microsoft wants to give you choices and give people across different industries the option to use these tools in different ways. That licensing really nicely crosses over, and it may seem really confusing, but if you think about buying one license and accessing multiple solutions, there's very, very few platforms that allow this today. Users only need one license to support multiple scenarios. Giving them the top level license for the functions they're going to have in one tool gives them the access to the other one as well. The nice feature here is you can offer your business users an easy project management solution. We have a lot of organizations that are, using tools like Smartsheet and Asana and Basecamp, and they're concerned because their data isn't in their cloud. They have to pay for extra integrations. They don't have secure access to the tables and the data behind the scenes. It becomes a business risk. And finally, a lot of those vendors are starting to up their costs, removing the free license now that they've got you hooked into it and having everybody pay for any use of the tool. So you can start thinking about, do I want to get off of those platforms and maybe give business users a project management tool in Office 365 so you can centrally govern it, but also give them the freedom and flexibility to use a visual tool. It's really a nice option. Importantly, Microsoft's building this on the Power Platform, and having that Power app behind the scenes, it provides so many opportunities and possibilities for improvement, for capturing any data you want on your projects, for implementing any kind of processes or workflows you want on a modern web-based architecture, mobile-friendly, integrates with Office 365, integrates with Power BI and Teams. It's really a nice platform to build off of if you're thinking about putting a scalable PMO solution in place. And finally, Copilot. Copilot is new. It's less than 2 years old. It does provide some really interesting, compelling opportunities for true process improvement, for true automation, to really be able to scale project management and automate it. So hopefully this gave you a really good background into kind of where project is, where planner is, how Copilot fits in. There's constantly changes around this. We're going to keep you up to date through our regular webinars. But we wanted to give you an update as to where things are today. With that, I'm going to hand the floor back to Annie, if we have any questions.
Thanks, Rob, for the deep dive into the current state of Project Planner, now Copilot. Sounds like there are some amazing opportunities for clients to continue leveraging Microsoft investments and skills to improve project management, whether it's traditional PMOs or business users who need to plan and manage projects, but need easier, more intuitive solutions. Let's see if there's any questions in the queue for Rob. Type now or forever hold your peace. We've provided some links to resources you may find helpful. First is our YouTube channel, which has over 75 videos posted, ranges from tips and tricks and how-tos to ways to improve portfolio and resource management using the technologies covered today. Our blog is a great resource for more guidance on how to do certain things in the tools, like use enhanced resource tracking, improve reporting, get better day-to-day planning with Project and Planner. If you're interested in improving your use of these tools, we'd highly recommend you check out the Project and Planner LinkedIn user community, which now has over 29,000 members. It's a great place to learn from other experts on these tools. Finally, if you have specific questions about how something works or are interested in further exploring the use of these solutions for your group, division, or department, please reach out to us at the email addresses listed here. Your internal IT and support teams can assist with getting you access to the licenses, but we here at Projility specialize in the implementation, training, customization, and support to best align these tools with your business processes. Now on to the fun. Before we wrap up, we're raffling off a couple project-specific items. In order to be eligible to win, you must complete a short survey, which will be sent in our follow-up event email. Enter for a chance to win a cute Hammerhead plushie or a copy of our latest book release, Ultimate Study Guide for Microsoft Projects. We'll be sending all attendees a link to our survey. By filling it out, you'll be registering for the drawing. Winners will be chosen at random tomorrow, so please submit your surveys in the next 24 hours. If you or anyone in your organization is looking for help or guidance with Project, the new Planner, Microsoft Power Platform, or PPM at whatever stage you're at, do reach out. Fertility provides planning, deployment, and support services around these applications to help you successfully deploy based upon your organization's specific needs and drive improved use and adoption. Contact us via email, info@fertility.com if you'd like to talk about your specific needs, and we'll set up some time. Thank you again for joining our conference today. We appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you online for our next session. Have a great day.